I am here with one of my absolute favorite cookbook authors, writers, Katie Parla, here from Italy. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so excited to see you again.
Oh my God, it's my pleasure. So today we are talking about your new book, which, if you can't tell, I'm very excited about, The Food of the Italian South. So people might know you from your previous book, Tasting Rome. Tell me a little bit about this book and why the Italian South kind of deserved its own book.
I mean, Italy is this huge country with so many cities and villages, each with its own culinary history.
Yeah.
I wanted, however, to sort of pick a large swath that most people don't know about, covering the regions of Basilicata, Calabria, Puglia, Campania, and Molise, and break it down so that, you know, maybe the next cookbook will go in depth into one of those regions. But first, people need to know about them.
Right, people need to understand that the South has a very different type of cuisine than the North generally.
Definitely.
And so today we're going to make a classic recipe. Talk to us about what we're making today.
We are making polpette casce ovo, which means...
Say that 5 times fast.
Polpette are meatballs, but that's just, I think, a poor translation because they're really any type of ball. They could be fish balls, bread balls. In this case, they're made from bread, and casce ovo means with pecorino cheese and eggs. And this is one of those dishes that you find all over the South, whether you're on the coast or in the mountains. People need to make the most of their stale bread, and this is one way to do it.
Well, let's get started. So we're starting with our tomato sauce here.
Well, first I want to cook some onions.
The most important part.
You know, you might find onions or garlic used in this recipe, depending on where you are. And I like to also season the onions with a little bit of salt, which sort of draws some of the moisture out of them.
All right, so while the onions are cooking, let's get started on the balls here. We've got a giant thing of bread, which is really the best place to start with any recipe, I think.
I think 50% of the recipes in Food of the Italian South have breadcrumbs or stale bread in some way.
Perfect.
And so
it's not a book for those on keto.
No, this is a very carb-positive book. So yeah, I just cubed up a bunch of bread, and it's still got a little bit of moisture, but it's stale. And to that, I'm gonna add.
So I mean, here it's 5 eggs, but if you feel like the texture's not quite there, you can add a 6. You can even add a little bit of water.
Absolutely, yeah. And you just sort of want to like mash it. You're making this into what is sort of like a smaller than golf ball sized bread ball. And I'm gonna actually do, like, you see how it's sort of holding together? I just want a little bit more moisture.
And so how do you know what the right amount of moisture is? Like, how can you tell? Is it like just when you see that it's holding together?
You know, when you have a bunch in your hand, you want to see that it like holds almost like the impression of your hand. And this is actually going to take on even a little bit more moisture when it goes into the sauce.
Right.
So it's not just going to be this sort of like eggy, cheesy ball. And speaking of cheese, now that we've got our breadcrumbs all
the best part
sorted.
And talk to me about the cheese here.
This is
what
pecorino.
Are we using?
Pecorino is just basically any sheep's milk cheese. Generally it's used to describe gradable, hard, aged one. And I used Pecorino Romano, but you can use Pecorino Toscano. And it's gonna bring a nice like savory flavor. All right, so I'm feeling good about this. Just because there's raw egg doesn't mean I can't taste it. All right, definitely need some seasoning. A little bit of salt.
So a little bit of salt, a little bit of
black pepper.
And again, like, you have amounts in this book, but if you are someone who like loves pepper or loves salt, like,
go nuts.
Like, this is kind of one of those recipes where you can make it your own.
Exactly.
Onions browned, starting to look good. And why is it so important to really cook them down?
I mean, you just want something that's not going to bring a lot of texture to the sauce. It's a personal preference. You want something that's like sort of melts into the sauce. So these are going to be cooking until, you know, very softened. Then they're going to be cooking in the tomato sauce solo. That's going to give a lot of flavor to the sauce. And then they're going to continue to cook with the balls in them.
Awesome.
So, you know, we're going to cook this just slightly so that it loses its sort of raw bite. And then add the bread balls, which will form momentarily. And then that will continue to cook. And that will make the sauce more concentrated and
but still leave a note of freshness to it.
Yeah, we're not cooking this for 5 hours.
Right. This is not your grandmother's 17-hour
Exactly.
tomato sauce.
It's not going to be brick red at the end. It's still going to have the like bright acidity of the tomatoes. I'm going to put in the basil. So one last thing, we're just going to add basil leaves. You can add them whole. I like to tear mine just a little bit. So I'm just making golf ball sized, or maybe smaller than golf ball sized balls.
So we've got our sauce going. We've got our bread balls at the ready. What do we do now?
This step is very complicated. You transfer the balls to the sauce and then just don't do anything else.
So hard. Your cookbook is impossible to follow.
I know, there are over 4 steps.
So how long do these take and sort of how much do you fuss with them?
I'm gonna let them chill here for 5 minutes, then I'm gonna turn them and cook them for another 10 minutes.
Easy. So like 15 minutes and you're done. Yeah. So it's been 5 minutes. Now what do we do?
Flip them.
That's it. And just try not to fuss too much.
Don't mess with them, just flip them.
and then 10 minutes.
10, 15, you want them to be cooked through, so you can try one and see if it's all holding together.
All right, so it's been another 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes total cooking these balls. They look beautiful.
Thanks.
So how do we serve them?
Super simple, you put them on a plate.
Ta-da! And then do you add anything on top, or you put any more cheese? Like you just like let it be?
I'm a very strong proponent of letting people serve themselves. You always like suggest cheese.
Right, it's like you can have this like on
and
the
salt.
side.
And inevitably, especially when you're serving food in Italy, someone will tell you what seasoning is lacking. So you just provide everything that people might need. I eat these on their own. If I feel like maybe they're a little under seasoned, instead of using salt, I'll add pecorino.
Because that adds the saltiness to it.
Exactly. Plus you get some dairy, which I mean, I crave.
Everyone needs. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming here and showing us how to make these amazing polpette or bread balls. And obviously, if anyone wants to try the recipes themselves, the book is Food of the Italian South by Katie Parla. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, it was so good to see you again.